All right. Okay, you hear me, Zuri?
I do.
Okay. All right. So we'll just hang on here a little bit. I'm sure people will be jumping on here
Okay.
in a bit, and uh, and we'll get rolling.
Good.
Let's see. Okay. And Crystal Clearwater, hello, hello. So Crystal Clearwater is in the house. And SSG Dumb, 1982. Good evening. How are you doing, SSG? Good to see you. And Evan, hello, hello. So Bronx in the house from the Bronx. And then there's Fort Law. What's going on, Fort Law? How are you doing? John Walker, hello, hello from Orlando. All right, from the sunny state of Florida. I was in Tampa, what was it, March. I was in Tampa in March. And there's Dulce Maria. What's going on? So family's in the house.
Yes.
Let's see. And I love Jesus and God. Peace to the gods. Glad to know you love Jesus and God. That's a good thing. I love Jesus and God. Fort Law, get ready. we might have to bounce somebody real quick. Are you friend or foe? I love Jesus. And why are you here?
Oh no.
Oh, that is so funny to me. Mm. Martha, hello, hello. How's it going? Let's see here. Yeah, we might have to just start some cleaning the house. And it says I
Oh
love Heru too. All right, I love Jesus. He said I love Heru too. All right. I was looking at you with that side eye.
no.
Oh, and Queen of Destiny, hello, hello. So yeah, buddy. I was looking with that side eye with the quickness. So but anyway, it's all good. It's all good. So let the SSG said let the educating begin. All right. She says, love my eye, Tahuti and Gab. All right, I love Jesus. Oh man. I guess you're making that transition. That's good. That's good. I like that.
Is
I like that.
that's why they're here. It's
There
great.
you go. There you go. Everybody's got to start somewhere.
That's right.
Got to start somewhere. Well, good to have you. Good to have you. I love Jesus. So that's good. So we all good. All right. Okay. So we'll get rolling here, guys. So we're here with Laura Zuri, and she calls herself a self-styled shadow worker. And man, I'm really excited about her. She's been a student of mine for what almost man, you like one of the first ones to sign up, like over a year ago. So
A
you've
year.
been with me for a while.
Yep.
So
Yep.
and one of the reasons that she's here is because I know this lady is man, her story is absolutely powerful. And I know that she's been doing the work, and she's basically developing and just growing, and I watched that growth, and just her story tonight, and what she's going to talk about. Good God, she's an amazing lady. So we'll get ready to get her on and get her going. So I'm Reginald Kuakaru, just in case anybody that is here might not know. So I am the founder of Comedic Centered Living and all that good stuff. So as always, here at Comedic Centered Living and here on this live, it is about some high vibes and high vibrations. So we're about uplifting people and uplifting humanity. So we come in here with the positive. So anybody that wants to come with some mess, you're going to get bounced. But we very, very seldom have that here. So I don't even anticipate that, you know. But Love JJ's in the house. Rock Creator, my moderators are in the house. Good to have you guys. Good to have you guys. All right. All right. All right. Now I see 46 people and only 11 likes. Come on, guys. help us out. Help us out. Hit that like button. Smash it. Smash that like button.
Yes.
Now,
Like,
and see, Zuri, I already know that they like you because I would already have the thumbs down by now. So
oh.
I just get thumbs down for general principle, man. So that's how it is. But it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
So I guess as the saying is, all publicity is good publicity. So it's all good.
Getting it out there either way, by all means necessary.
There you go. There you go. All right. So we'll get going here. And so how to turn your pain into your power after losing a loved one. So that's going to be the foundation of what we're talking about here tonight. And we're going to have a conversation, but it's definitely about empowering. So that's the bottom line. I see my daughter's here, Voice Shay. What's going on, daughter of mine? So Zuri, just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you came from, and how did you get to KCL, and how did you transition to all of this?
Okay, so as a lot of us, here, I grew up in Christianity. And I left the church, I'd say probably about 2016, just knew something was missing. I knew that, from a child, it just didn't feel right. And so I left the church on my own and just was really trying to figure out why was I having this urge to leave from what was so familiar and what I was taught. And on that journey, I was just discovering myself, seeing things that had happened in my past, and it all was making sense. Fast forward to this time last year, September 2020, I just felt like there was something missing. And I couldn't put my finger on it. I had just gone through a loss of a relationship. The world was in a different place. And I just was like, it's none of those things. It's something more. And what I realized was I become stagnant in my journey and I needed something more. And so
now what is stagnation? What was stagnation like for you? What do you mean by that?
I just felt like I could not elevate with my spirituality. So things that I once liked was not interesting to me anymore. I wasn't finding the joy that I was finding before. Being able to think in a positive way, everything just seemed really mundane. And I'm an upbeat person, and that just didn't seem normal to me. And so I was like, well, something's missing. And it just was speaking to my spirit very, very loudly. So fast forward, one morning, it was September, I woke up 3:00 in the morning and had this random thought to tune into a video. It was Nipsey Hussle's mom. She was doing her son's eulogy. And I watched that video, and I watched it before when it had happened, when he passed away at the beginning of 2019, and just her elegance and how she presented herself during that service just really spoke to me. So for whatever reason, that came to mind again. I watched that video and she mentioned African spirituality. So after
now, had you been exposed to African spirituality before then?
No, not at all. Hadn't heard about it, nothing. And so watching that, I Googled African spirituality and KCL came up, Kemetic Summit Living. Yeah, exactly. And so, I clicked on it. I started watching the content. Even the title struck me, like rewiring your mind. And I was like, ooh, I like psychology. So that just seemed like it was drawing me in. And surely enough, it was like, I think it was 3:00 in the morning. It was 6 by the time I stopped reading, and I had signed up for the classes. And I was like, this is exactly what I've been looking for. So
awesome. That's awesome, man. No, that is great. And I remember when you first came aboard, and just you were asking questions and how you were commenting on the content and stuff like that. And then fast forward to I know it at some point you were talking about how the content was helping you transition. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how you transitioned from the mindset you were in as a Christian to the new mindset, the new transition that you were making.
Yeah, so that transformation really had already started taking place. Like I had pulled out already, I left, but it was like I needed to replace something with where Christianity was, and I didn't know what exactly that was. So when I was reading this content, it was like a key to a lock. It was just unlocking my ability to be able to make things make sense. So before in life, like I was manifesting stuff just by being in tune with my inner being. And it would happen on accident. And so I wasn't ready for it. It's like I hadn't created the atmosphere in order to be able to receive certain things. But then when I started reading the content and being intentional and looking back at my life and saying, oh, that happened for this reason, I started finding gratitude with everything that had happened in my life. Like, you know, a lot of people would look at it like, oh, you were furloughed and, you know, I wasn't working, but I had everything as if I was working. I had mentioned I'd gotten out of a long-term relationship, and, you know, some of my friends like, oh, it's so heartbreaking. And I'm like, I'm actually okay. And I just didn't understand why I was, but the content that was, you know, being poured into my life was just having me hone in on being in tune with myself. And so it was just like a whole new world had started to develop.
And one that transitioned you from, I guess, like you felt more empowered.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like able to see different perspectives of things that I didn't see before. So as I had said before, I was kind of stagnant. And so that perception started changing, like, oh, in all actuality, this is a good thing. I was able to start getting downloads even about astrology. I found out through this whole transition that my grandmother was an astrologist. And so I was told to stay away from
Wow.
astrology and Christianity. My parents were like, you know, you stay away from that. And I was like, that's the first thing I'm gonna run to. As soon as I'm grown, I'm gonna get into that, you know. And I knew there was truth to it, but now there wasn't this fear anymore because it was helping me uncover my own shadow.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha. Okay. So now let's fast forward
yeah.
because to what happened. I just remember when you, and man, I'm getting chills just even just thinking about that the day I know you had contacted me and you told me what happened, and I was just like, oh my God. And tell everybody this tragedy that I would call it that happened in your life that I know for so many people it would absolutely break them, you know.
Yeah.
And I just remember, Zuri, the way that you handled this. I was like, my God, this woman is just like, she is like so strong and so amazing and just so I was amazed at how you were able to handle it. So to just talk to us about what happened.
Okay,
And I'm
cool.
going to ask you to here and there to give us some more details. But just tell us what happened.
So it was actually 10 months ago in January. My son, one of my sons, was murdered. And the way that everything happened was it was just out of nowhere. It was just all of a sudden. And even when I found out what had happened, there wasn't this outburst of, you know, oh my God, and like freaking out. And I attribute that to everything leading up to that point. So I was talking about the content, just the things that I was able to do, you know, with being able to manifest things. I was tuning into my inner goddess and able to hear very clearly leading up to this. When all of this took place, I was able to see my son 3 minutes before all of this happened.
Now you were talking about how you were. I just remember you telling me how you were led to go over there. Talk about that.
The transition and how
Yeah.
everything leading up to it.
Yeah.
Okay. So this particular day, I was working on content, and even the content that I was working on, you know, was a product of being a student of KCL. I'd been afraid to kind of break out and do public speaking and start my own thing. It's always been a passion of what I would wanted to do when I grew up. And, you know, being almost 40, I had finally started down that path. So I'm creating this content, and I hear my inner goddess speak to me. And it wasn't like I would, I didn't freak out because she's spoken to me before. And I know to listen to this voice because there's been times where I didn't listen because I didn't know better and I didn't like the outcome. So when I began listening, everything just aligned. So this day, she told me to get up and to go to my son's apartment. And being in the middle of the content, I didn't want to go, but I was just like, I know that I have to do this, based off of my previous experience. So got up, was going over to his place, and I needed to pick up a few items for dinner. And decided not to stop because the voice spoke again and was just like, no, you need to go straight to your son's house. So once I get there, I was just going to call my other son down. I was going to go over anyways to pick him up because it was a school night. But this was like maybe 1:30 in the afternoon. So it was, earlier in the day, just an earlier time that I wouldn't have gone over there. So I was going to call him down. And when I got there, the voice spoke again and said, no, you need to go up to his apartment. So I got out of the car and walked to the stairs. And when I got to the stairs, my son was actually standing at the top of the stairs and he was on the phone talking to his mentor. And as he always did in life, we ended up meeting in the middle of the stairs. He hugged me. And he's really excited talking about his entrepreneurship opportunity and, his content. And I had asked him about my hair. I had changed my hairstyle and I turned and said, hey, you ain't got to say anything. And he's like, oh, you look good, Mom. You look straight. Even that act, had I not said that, I wouldn't have been able to see his smile one last time. So it's like being guided, being aligned with just, everything. So I said that. He turned around and smiled at me and he put his thumb up. I went up the stairs. He was expecting a little one. And I was talking to his fiance and both of his brothers were in his apartment.
Now, Zuri, tell me a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your son. So what was he doing? Because I know people are going to be asking, okay, well, he got murdered. What was he doing? So tell them about this young man.
Yeah. So Jonathan ended up being an HFX trader. So before that, he was working at Omni Hotel, and he had gotten furloughed. And so super smart young man, being able, I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but it's like stocks. So he had gotten into trading. And so he would see me, working, and he'd come over and say, hey, let me show you how to do this so you can make all this money and you not have to work as hard as you're working. And I was just like, okay. And he was showing me and it was working out. But he had gotten to the point where he had mentors coming. He was a mentor himself. So he was under a mentor, but then he had mentees coming up under him. So,
he was doing stocks.
Yeah. He was doing stocks at 19.
Yeah. At 19 years old. Yes.
Yeah. Very smart. Had his own place. Very smart young man. Yeah.
Sounds like an amazing young man.
Yeah. Yeah. He was, still is.
Gotcha.
But he had begun writing affirmations on his mirror because he started listening to everything that I was telling him. So I had just pulled his natal chart and I was telling him how energy works and how to align his chakras and the whole nine. And he had begun listening and coming over, and Mom, tell me more about this. And, so yeah.
Wow. So you hugged him and you started up the stairs.
I went and was talking to his fiance. And like I said, the other two young men, my sons, were in his apartment. And we were in the back room talking. And I'd say it was, like I said, about 3 minutes. And I hear one of my sons scream. And they, when I came out the room, they were running out the front door. So we didn't know what was going on, but we just decided to run behind them because, they were freaking out. We get down to the parking lot and my oldest son falls to his knees and he's screaming his brother's name. And I just kind of look at him and I'm like, what are you talking about? He was just here. I just saw him. He's fine. And he's crying. So I'm like, what happened? Like, tell me what's going on. And so the mentor that he was on the phone with called him and said, I think your brother's hurt, because they were on a FaceTime call. So he heard the gunshots. And said, hey, I think your brother's hurt. And that's how we knew to come down there. And so I got in the car, started driving around the apartment complex because I'm like, well, maybe I'll find him and we can get him help. But I didn't find him. So one of his
Mm-hmm.
brothers was just like, hey, let's track his phone. And we ended up tracking it. It was 8 minutes away from where he lived. Told the police, where we'd come. They helped us find the phone because it didn't bring us like right to the phone, but we ended up finding it with the police. He wasn't with his phone. It was just laying in the grass. And at that point, we had to just go back to his apartment and answer a lot of questions.
Now tell me. Now you're talking about this now, and I know you're a few months removed away from it. But what was going through your mind then?
Um,
How are you feeling?
Surprisingly, I was very calm and I was trying to keep my children calm. Like my oldest son, he was like yelling and like punching my dashboard and was like, we gotta find him, we gotta find him. And I was like, I just need you to calm down so that I can think. And it's not that I wasn't, concerned, but I was able to just, like I said, just stay calm because I'm like, if you have a lot of emotions and stuff going on, a lot of stuff's not going to make sense. So in this moment, I'm just like, we're going to find him. It's going to be fine. I knew that there was something bad on that end just from that feeling, but I just felt like, okay, we're going to find him and, we're going to go from there.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Wow. So let's talk about how you ended up finding where he was. So
Yeah.
what led to that?
So that night, I guess after we saw his phone laying there, that's kind of when I was like, okay, that it's not somebody that kidnapped him. He doesn't have his phone. So that night, after we had left the police station, I went home and it was raining really hard that night, harder than I can remember it raining here ever. And I walked over to my window and I just said, tell mama where you're at so that I can bring you home. And first thing that I heard was a name of a lake that's in this area. And I just was thinking water. Before I heard that voice, I was thinking water because it was raining. And I was like, he's in or near water. And then that's when that voice was like, it named a lake. And I had sat with him previously at this lake, and this lake is a really large body of water. So it goes through 3 cities here. So that was my
Mm-hmm.
first thought. Um, Again, just peace that surpasses understanding. I look back at this and I was like, I went right to sleep. I didn't toss and turn. I wasn't like frantic and screaming. And it was just, I laid down and I went to sleep. And
No,
so,
and I remember even talking to you at that time, and you were telling me about what you were going through, and just your calmness was just like it was astonishing to me,
yeah,
absolutely astonishing.
it's like, my spirit, just my inner being aligned and in tune with my inner being was just, everything is fine. Everything as it's supposed to be. And I just went with it because it was a familiar feeling. It wasn't like a facade. It's like I know everything is going to be fine, you know. So
Wow,
yeah,
wow,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. so when you finally found out what happened, I know that go from when you did find out what happened to you doing the services and stuff.
Okay. So a few things happened over those, and it was within 48 hours, all of this happened. I woke up, was first of all, I was in denial the next morning. That it was almost like then like subconsciously I was moving through this, but then like consciously I was like, oh, I need to go to the hospitals and I need to go find him. And I got to my door realizing you don't know where you're going. So then I had to sit and wait. And that's something that I want to point out. We run from silence. And silence is where you're able to really hear that voice to guide you into
Mm-hmm.
what it is that you're supposed to be doing. So it was almost like it was forced. There was nothing that I could do at that point but wait. And so that was the longest day ever. Had to sit there and just wait to hear something. And later
Wow.
on that night, was when I heard him tell me, my body hurts all over. And I said, okay, go ahead and
So
go.
you're connected to your son at this point.
Absolutely. 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 Like when he said, he said the lake, but then he actually said, my body hurts all over. And that aligned with who he was physically as a person. He wouldn't take Tylenol if he had a headache, like he would fight through it. So it was like he would have tried to, hang on a little bit longer because of the people that, love him. Like I said, he had a daughter on the way.
Hmm.
But he's just like, my body hurts all over. And I closed my eyes and it was like he was trying to hang on, but he knew he had to leave.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
I closed my eyes, a couple tears fell, and I just said, go ahead and go. And so
Wow.
that that was Monday. So again, 3 o'clock in the morning, it's something about that 3 o'clock in the morning. I wake up and I couldn't feel his energy like I had felt him before. And I put my house coat on, house shoes, grabbed my purse, I knock on my youngest son's door and I said, let's go. We're going to go find your brother. So I get in the car and I drive over to his place and I just sat beside his car. And the reason I was doing that is because that's where he spent a lot of his time. So I felt like I could pick up his energy by sitting there. So I
Hmm.
sat there for probably about 20 minutes. And then I drove back over to where his phone was found. And I sat there for probably 5 to 10 minutes. And then I heard go straight. So he's talking to me again. So,
Hmm.
okay, so I ended up driving straight down that street. Mind you, before that day, I had never been on the street, hadn't been in the neighborhood, don't know anything about where it is that I was going. But I
Wow.
go straight and end up at the end of that street, and it's a cul-de-sac. It dead ends, and it's a cul-de-sac. And surely enough, there's a field and there's water. And I just get this feeling, and I was like, he's been here. I can feel him. He's been right in this area. And so I sit there for a little bit. And as I start to turn and like leave the area, I hear him say, I'm here. And so I stopped,
Wow.
look at his brother, and I said, your brother's here. Now, earlier in that day, what I failed to mention was they had already picked this person up. And where they picked this person up was an hour away from where we were. So I told you it was 8 minutes. His phone was 8 minutes from where he was in that city. So where they picked this person up was an hour away from there. So, for him to tell me that he's there, he could have been anywhere between,
Right.
an hour, but he said, I'm here. So I said,
Right.
okay. So I wasn't going to get out because it was about 4, 5 o'clock in the morning at that point, and it was still dark. So I said, I'm going to come back in the morning. And that's what I ended up doing the next day. So had a friend come by. We went, looked in that area, started walking in the field. I saw like footprints in the field and knew that he wasn't over there. Just, there was like birds and birds kind of swoop down if there's a corpse or anything. So I was like, he's not over here. And they asked, well, what about this water over here? I was like, no, because there's people walking and they would have seen something. Even with saying that, it's like I knew that he hadn't washed out, like he was there, just like he said. And I had
Hmm.
gone to two other, maybe a block between where I was, like two more neighborhoods over, and there were cul-de-sac areas there. And it was just like I knew it. Like I couldn't find him, but I knew that he was there. In the last
Hmm.
area that I was in, I actually put my foot, it was like a current like running through over rocks. And I kind of felt like frustrated a little bit because I'm like, I'm not finding him, but I know he's here. And I put
Hmm.
my foot in that water and just kind of watched the water run over my foot. And it was like I could feel his energy. And I just kept telling the person I was with, like, he is here. I'm not finding him, but I know that he's here. And at that point, there was nothing else I could do but go home.
Hmm.
So I go home and get a call 2 hours later that they did find a body. And I asked them if they could tell me where it was, and they said no. And I asked them if it was in or near water, and they said yes. And I was
Now, why couldn't they tell you?
I guess it was just part of their investigation that they couldn't well, no, I'm sorry. They couldn't confirm it yet because, they
Right.
had to go through their process. So
Right.
I guess they didn't want me to mess anything up or say anything to anyone, but they were just like, we can't tell you where. But I said, in or near water. They said, yes. And I said, that's my son. And they said, well, ma'am,
Wow.
we got to go through whatever, the logistics of identifying him. And so I said, okay, but I'm telling you that's him. And then later on, or well, that same day, they said, don't watch the press conference that was happening that evening. So if you're reading between the lines, that's him. And so at that point, I didn't wait for them to confirm that it was him. I went and told my son because I said, I'd rather me tell him than him hear it through social media or something that it was him. And surely enough, the next morning they knocked on the door and they were like, it's your son. And I said, okay, well, thank you. And they're kind of just looking at me like, aren't you like surprised? And I was like, well, I told you it was him. And then I said, well, now, where did you find him? Did you find him in the city? And they said, yes. And that's where he told me he was.
So it was where you were is where they found it.
Yes. Yep. And
Wow.
it wasn't, until all this happened, I went back to visit the area because they hadn't released the exact spot until, well, maybe a couple months later. And when I went and visited the spot where they found him, I would have been able to see him had I known that he was there. But the cul-de-sac areas, it's like the lake runs up to those neighborhoods. So both of those areas that I was in, had I walked, I would have been able to see diagonally where he was. And he didn't want me to find him like that. That's why he didn't lead me to exactly where he was. But once I had the address, I was just like, oh, I was right over there.
Wow. Wow. So now you're telling me or and telling us you're hearing him speak to you.
Yes.
Talk about that. Talk
Yeah.
about what was that something that was a part of your relationship before that you had that connection like that with him before his death or
Well,
was
I
that
could feel him. I knew when he was doing something he had no business doing.
oh that's a mother.
Yes. They're like one time he was driving, he was out and he was speeding and it was just like, and I was like, you need to calm down, slow your behind down. And he ended up telling me later on he had gotten a ticket, but it's like, I felt that. I'm a Libra Scorpio and he was a Libra. So I could, we were close. We were close.
Mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm.
but yeah, but I couldn't like hear him or anyone for that matter. I couldn't hear that before. But now it was very, very clear that it was him. And even, in hearing this news, my son was a big jokester. He didn't get in trouble for stuff, but being a class clown. And, when you take a picture on your phone and you go to your photos, it's the last picture that you took. Okay. When I got this news and I was like, okay, I have to plan this service now and I have to do this and I have to clean out his apartment and all these things. I was going to get the phone number because again, jump into action. I was looking for the phone number for the funeral home. And this picture of him just being goofy, he had this, and he was kind of like going like this, just being silly, kept popping up on my phone. And I was like, Jonathan, this is not the time. This is not the time. You can't explain how this kept popping up on my phone. So I would swipe it. I'd go to get the number again and it would pop up on my phone. And I was just like, I turned my phone off, Reginald, so that I could just clear everything, turn the phone on again. And this picture pops up again on my phone. And I said, okay. And he's just telling me, not right now, Mom. Like, this isn't the time. You just need to calm down and it's going to be fine. So I end up laughing. I just found out my son passed. And I'm sitting here like, would you cut it out? Because I know that that's him getting through to me like, I'm okay. And even when they told me, I sat down on my couch and it wasn't this doom and gloom feeling. I sat down, took a deep breath, and I was like, this boy's in Australia or Italy, or he's playing with the dolphin. Like, he's figuring out what it is to be in this spiritual aspect of his life. He's
Wow.
not held down by the physical anymore. And I knew that immediately. So there was just, again, this calm,
Now,
this,
how could you be in that place like that at that time? What enabled you to do that?
it had to be being in alignment, being in tune with my inner goddess, with my chakras, because it couldn't have been explained as anything else. There's a transformation that had taken place. Being the observer of my life and just knowing where I am right now is exactly where I'm supposed to be going through this process. And it wasn't until everything kind of unfolded, like with the service, and I ended up speaking at a service for the first time. And I would claim my whole life I was not a public speaker. I was like, I'm afraid to speak in public, and
I
I don't
remember
want
you
people.
telling me that.
Yeah, I'm like, I thought even the other day, like when I got married before, and I was walking down the aisle, and I just remember thinking, like, stop looking at me, like I was just shying away from everyone, and I don't know what that was. I do now, but at the time, I didn't know what that was about. And you had mentioned in one of the lessons that very thing that you're running from is what you're supposed to be doing. And I sat there and I was like, I don't run from nothing. I'm like, it's me. I'm Scorpio. I'll run. And I was like, yeah, you do. You
Right.
run from speaking. And that was exactly like, even leading up to his service, I was having just things come up that was forcing me to speak in front of people, like virtually. And I just was like, universe, you got jokes. Like, you keep putting me in front of people. Why? And by the time it was time for me to do my son's service, I was ready. Like I was going to do his service. And so,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you had all of a sudden you were in the same position as Nipsey Hussle's mother was.
absolutely. And there was
Yeah.
no way that I could have known that 6 months before. It was like my spirit knew and was preparing me those 6 months, everything that I was studying. Even one of the lessons talks about afterlife and being ready for death. It talks about in the tomb where their arms are crossed like this.
Mm-hmm.
My son's last picture that he took, his arms are just like this.
Wow.
Yeah, ready
Wow.
for the afterlife. And I just was like sitting here and I'm going over this, I'm combing through this, and I'm just like, it's all lining up. So here I
Wow.
am speaking at his service, even leading up to, speaking at his service. The funeral director was she wasn't my cup of tea. How I even got led to her was my son. I picked a different funeral home, and how I can't remember how I knew. I think it was him just telling me like this isn't the one, and I was like, well, you need to make it clear and plain that I'm supposed to be going with this other funeral home because the other one was more logical. I said, I need a sign. You're just gonna have to tell me why I'm choosing this funeral home. And the funeral director's name was the name of his favorite aunt. So I was like, oh, okay. I know that I'm on the right path. I'm going to continue to go with this. And she was just dropping balls left and right. And I wasn't happy with her. It was maybe 2 nights before the service. And I had asked her, like, when am I supposed to speak? When am I doing his eulogy? And she was like, what do you mean? And I said, what do you mean? What do I mean? When am I speaking? And she's like, there's no order of service. Like, this is, you got some flowers in the space. And I just was like, what? And my sister that was with me, she was just ready to wring her neck. She was so upset. And that's not even her energy. And so I needed to not be by her because I just didn't know how to handle her in that moment. So I went and
Mm-hmm.
took a shower. And when I got in the shower, water calms me. Being in water, around water, it just always calms me. And got in the shower, and then I could hear my inner being and she said, there's not an order of service because you're supposed to conduct the service. And I said,
Wow.
now this makes sense. That's why he led me to this funeral home so that I could conduct the service in the way that, would honor him. And got out of the shower and I told my sister and said, there's just calm down, there's not an order of service because I'm supposed to do it. And she's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And the
Wow.
reason that made sense is I've never dealt with anything like this before, but coming out of Christianity, you have a pastor and they say the Lord's Prayer and they do all these things. I'm not in that anymore. So I'm just
Right.
like, okay,
You're gonna
that's
have
not,
to come up with something new and
yeah,
different, and
exactly.
yeah.
And so I was just like, okay, I mean, I'm gonna do it, but I don't know what to do. So like the next day, it was the Friday before the service. I just asked my sister, like, keep people away, because I need to figure this out. And I sat down and I said, all right, help me piece this together. And I started going through my drawers. I pulled his natal chart. His natal chart was him to a T. You would have thought that this was written for his life. But I pulled his natal chart. I was able to pour libations for his service. I found a poem that was on the back of his photo when he had graduated. Several things. The music that I picked, the officiant was his favorite uncle. All of those things, it just came together. One thing that was significant, and it was comforting because it was like along the way, he kept giving me little things to comfort me, to say I'm okay, whether it was a thought process or just there was, I'll tell you about something else that he had done. But up to that point, I was going through photos, and I came across one photo, and it was him laying on top of my grandmother's photo. So my grandmother passed away and she was in the casket. His photo was laying directly on her photo. And it was just like, I have him, like, he's okay. And my son's like, I'm with her. And I was like,
wow.
What was significant about that was they were both born on the same day.
Wow. Wow.
Yep.
Man.
And it was almost like these little boosts of, you got this, you're on the right path, like keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember us talking back then, and when you were going through that, and what I felt that was happening was that your son was like teaching you.
Absolutely.
He was teaching you from beyond of how to connect, with your inner guidance, and he was helping you with that.
I will agree with that, because just, in Christianity, you talk about demons and spirits and stuff. And I was so scared, like, don't bring that over here. I know what you're talking about. Just shut it out. But then going through this experience, I've been able to tap in and hear him and speak to him and ask him to show me signs, to come visit me. So much so where I'm tapping into mediumship, because I rejected it before, because I was afraid of it. I thought it was a demon, because Christianity said, but not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. I mean, it's like all of this has people can look at it one way as a tragedy, and it was, but in another way, it is something that has helped you to develop and empower you to now where you're moving forward to where you want to help others,
Absolutely.
And talk about that. Talk about where you're moving forward with that now, and how this is kind of help you transition to what you want to do now.
So the reason shadow worker is in the title, and basically what that is I use my knowledge of the universe in order to help other individuals uncover their shadow, so that they can gain wisdom, knowledge, transform, and heal from their pain, so that they can turn it into their power, because that's exactly what I ended up doing. And it wasn't just from, him passing. I was able to look back and be the observer from when I was 15. I was abandoned when I was 15. I was married before, and I went through an abusive relationship. And it's just like being the observer and seeing all of those things led me to where I was today. I used to be afraid to talk about that kind of stuff, because I was just like, I was
on some level ashamed of it.
Yeah. Like people would look at me at who I am today and like, why would you ever put up with that, or just not understand? And I was slowly coming out of that. Like when I said I was stagnant, that's a good example of, I could not pull that forward in order to be able to help people. Even though I wanted to, I still couldn't talk about that kind of stuff unless it was like a friend or something. But I couldn't go over to somebody that was experiencing it and say, hey, let me help you uncover this, because it's nothing to be ashamed of.
Right.
And so that's what this content did. It basically nourished what was already there, so that I could.
You said the content.
KCL.
Okay.
Yeah. It nourished what was already there, so that I could overcome that fear, and be able to help people, bring that shadow to the forefront. So if somebody were just to look at me walking down the street, they would never know that I've experienced all these things. But now I can talk about it, nobody wants to really talk to somebody that hasn't been through something themselves, being a single mom. There's so much that comes along with that. You're used to doing everything for everyone else, to where you can lose yourself. and then feel guilty about doing something for yourself. And it's just like, no, that's not what we were here for. But all of that is part of that journey up
Yeah.
until, this point. And so
Yeah.
I'm able to talk about that and, and help people with this being like the pivotal point of that transformation. It brought everything full circle because
When
now
you say this being the pivotal point, what do you mean?
my son's death. It was like
Okay.
his death was almost my rebirth because the
Wow.
fact that I'm sitting here talking to you on this live would have never happened before. It would have,
Wow.
I wouldn't have done it because I was afraid, of what my own self, my own experiences. And it's just like, it was nothing to be afraid of. When I was standing there and giving his eulogy, I could see him like, yay, mom, you did it. You finally did it. There'd been so many
Wow.
other things that I was trying to do. I like to do hair and I'm into essential oils for healing and all of these things. And it was like, I kept trying to force that to be, my entrepreneurship career and to push me forward. I couldn't make it happen. And it was just like, why could I not push forward? I was feeling like I wasn't good enough. Again, that stagnant point. And then this happened. And I'm like, I'm here. One of my friends was like, you showing out? I was like, girl, I decided to show up. I'm here. I'm finally here, and just not afraid of what all that means.
Right, right. And I think and probably if you were telling a client of yours now what you went through, what the pain that you went through is really what has shaped you and lifted you and empowered you.
Absolutely. And the reason for that, Reginald, is because what I realized, what was I guess the turning point for me was the love that I have for my son was much stronger than the grief of his death. And he would want me to
Wow.
continue to do this. And I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. No, that is powerful. That is powerful. So so when you work with someone,
yeah,
and they've been grieving, what do you tell them? How do you help shift them from them grieving? Because I know as Christians, a lot of times that we don't even understand why we're grieving a lot of times because we have this idea of going to heaven or hell. But for a loved one, you can never really be sure which place they're going to, because you really can't, you weren't around them 24 hours a day. So you don't know if they did something that doomed them to hell or whatever. So there's some grief and some fear and a lot of different things that people are wrestling with from that belief system that they don't even realize.
Right.
So now knowing what you know, and when you're working with your clients, how do you help them transition with that?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to use wisdom when it comes to that, and meet them where they're at. Because if you're just, talking to somebody, telling them what it is, they're not going to resonate with that. So you're allowing them to get out their feelings, and how they're feeling and sympathizing with that, or empathizing with that. From that point, where the work comes in is shifting their perspective. So if I can give you an analogy, we're not supposed to, be here. No one is supposed to be here for forever. We always talk about going home, but we get stuck in the third dimension or the physicality of things. And when we focus on that, we miss the bigger picture. So I'm going to use the analogy of like Michael Jackson or Prince. Okay. Everybody knows who that is. And while they were here, they gave us gifts. They gave us their music. Yes, it was sad when they passed. But right now, if you turned on, Rock With You or Thriller or any of those songs, you're going to get up and you're going to dance because that's their gift to the world. That's how that makes you feel. It's the universal language. Our loved ones are basically here to do that same thing. What did you learn from your loved one? What gift did they leave you so that you could continue to pass that on, each one teach one, and spread that throughout eternity to where they never die? So it could be 5, 6, 7 generations from what you learn from that loved one. If you're actually shifting your perspective to inhabit what it is that you got from them, and then you're using that in your life to help others, then they've lived forever, and that's part of your journey. That becomes part of your journey. So it's about a shift of your mind, rewiring your mind, and how you choose to look at different things.
Yes, yes. It's about, and that's something that we talk about in class. It's about understanding that we have a choice in the duality and which perspective that we want to choose,
Absolutely.
And you can choose one to disempower, or you can choose one to empower yourself. And you've obviously chosen to empower yourself.
Well, and that's one thing that I wanted. I mean, so many things happened in that short period of time with my son passing. But one thing that I wanted to mention that was just like, the green light for me, like, I've got to go with this, was, I think it was maybe the third morning after all this had happened. And I told you, how I was when the police gave me the news and everything. But one of these mornings, I got up and I wasn't thinking about my son's life. I was actually thinking about his death. And I was thinking about how he went, and was he cold, and all of these things that were, negative. And it affected me so much where I could not stand up. I had to end up just falling to the floor and laying down on the floor and just crying. Mm-hmm. And my body began to ache. Mm-hmm. And I just was laying there and I'm crying. And I just started thinking, like, how did this happen? How did I get to this point of just despair? And I'm like, what is this? And as I sat there and I was just crying, my inner being was like, well, now you're thinking about his death. And before, you were thinking about his life. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, finished crying, got it out. Once I got it, because the thing is, you don't want to suppress. You live in the moment.
Right. Absolutely.
You want to be present. And by no means am I telling anyone to suppress that. You feel what it is in the moment that you're feeling.
Yes.
But you always have a point. Where do we go from here? So I thought about that. And then when I started thinking about my son's life and everybody that he touched and the things that he brought to this world, my energy came back. My body stopped hurting. The anxiety went away. And I was able to get up and finish doing what it was I was doing. That particular day, we were cleaning out his apartment, and a lot of people were just saying, like, well, why are you doing that? That was my choice, to clean out his apartment. Mm-hmm. A lot of people wouldn't have done that, but that was part of my healing. I got to go to his apartment, look in his pantry, see how, he mimicked what I was teaching him. This boy had almond milk. Okay. Like, I'm like, okay, you're listening, you're picking up a few things, and that was so, just embracing that made me so happy, because I'm like, I wouldn't have got to see this if I allowed someone else to do it. It was just little things like that, being the last person on his patio when I was the first one with him to get his keys. It's like all of these things, I can take that with me. And you fast forward to that same business, that same content that I was working on that day and I put down is now in play. The website is launching mid-November.
And what's the website? And people are also asking about your Cash App, Zuri.
Oh, I don't have one.
Don't have one yet? Okay.
No, I don't have one yet. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I'm sorry. What was the question?
The website. So what's your website going to be?
So my website is, it's about aligning your chakras. And so the reason I chose that is because I feel like that is the center point of everything. When your chakras are aligned, it gives you what it is that you need to be balanced. So whether you're trying to be courageous, whether you're trying to speak out, whether you're trying to learn about loving yourself before anyone else can love you, you have to have your chakras aligned. So that website is geared towards doing that for individuals. So for instance, you have all kinds of things that you can do, but I was trying to think of a method that basically everybody does. And that's, you put on clothes, not everybody's into oils, not everybody's into stones, but everybody clothes themselves. So each shirt is like the color of a chakra. And on the shirt is going to have an affirmation so that, you know, if you're wanting to work on your third eye, you can wear, you know, a purple shirt that has an affirmation. And it's also going to be to where you can customize and have your own affirmation. But it's just a constant reminder, you know, to help you have that in tune. And when you order the shirt, you'll also get a stone to carry around with you as a reminder. You can put it on your nightstand, or you can put it on your, you know, desk and have you work on that chakra. So for me, I was intentional when I was talking about, you know, speaking. I was intentional about wearing blue and carrying around, I think it was a sapphire stone to help me, you know, embrace and balance my chakra. It also gives you content about when your chakras may be overactive or underactive, or how you know they're balanced, and even physical things that you may experience when they're out of balance. It is important to know, though, that you're never going to always be balanced. The beauty of contrast.
And do you have the web address yet?
Not the URL, but I can give you the email address because it's still being built, and that is contact us at comedicenergy.net.
Okay. And that's how they can reach you through email.
That's how they can reach me. And then whoever's interested, I'll send you out the URL and everything once everything is finished and launched. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. I'm implementing this because I've used it. I've used the tactics and they've helped me. I was saying the beauty of contrast. When you're out of balance, you won't know what it is to be out of balance, in balance, if you're never out of balance. So you need to be able to experience that so you know how to get back in balance so that you can flourish and continue to evolve and be the best version of yourself.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what one of the things we talk about in class is just people are talking about balancing chakras and stuff like that. And really, it's about balancing your life.
That's what it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, when your chakras are out of balance, it's because there is something out of balance in life, and life is telling you what that is, you know. So you can balance a chakra, but if you haven't balanced the situation in your life, guess what's going to happen?
That's right. That's right. And you have to observe that. You have to acknowledge that. And that's where it comes into addressing your shadow. What is it that's out of balance? It's something that's back that you need to address and bring to the forefront. It's like, how do you know that you have an issue, or how do you heal? You have to address that there is an issue first. Vaucher's reading really helped me also bring this to the forefront because it was all aligned right there in my seventh house with learning through relationships and what it is that I was supposed to be doing. And like I said, I had tried to do other things before, but then when I discovered this shadow work and being able to speak to this and be the example, it was just boom, everything just flowed. It was easy and light. Like I'm barely having to do anything because everything is just aligned as this is exactly what you're supposed to be doing and helping people uncover their shadow.
Yes. Now, and I was going to ask you, what does that mean? So explain that idea, and how did Vaucher's astrology reading help you uncover that idea for yourself?
That reading, that reading just gave me the confidence to do what I already knew that I was supposed to be doing. In a nutshell. And uncovering people's shadow, it kind of makes people uncomfortable, like maybe in closer relationships, because it's like you need to understand, especially since I'm talking about this now and telling people this is actually what I do. You don't really want people to know some of those things, but it's just like I'm able to pick up and say like, hey, let me help you with this. It's not like oh, you got these skeletons in your closet, look at you. It's, oh, let me help you so that you can evolve and become the better person that you were meant to be, so that you can spread throughout eternity the gifts that you have. Because again, my shadow would have been being in an abusive relationship or being abandoned by my mother. Nobody wants to really talk about that because it's embarrassing, you know. But then bringing that to the forefront, that shadow is uncovered now, and I'm able to talk about it. And who knows who I'm helping right now? Who knows who's, you know, healing from this process? So it has, you know, transformed me into a place where my pain turned into my power, because now I'm helping other individuals get through those situations.
Yeah. And I like to use the symbology of the shadow, bringing what's in the shadow to the light. That's how you heal it.
Absolutely.
Know? So when you bring the shadow, into the light, or you shine the light into the shadow, then you heal.
Yeah. I mean, Reginald, I could go on for days talking about this. You know, I would have never got to this point being in Christianity. You know,
And why would you say that? So explain that.
So my sister and I laugh about this all the time. But okay, so we grew up Pentecostal, very, very strict. Do you see this color that I have on my fingernails? Anybody that grew up Pentecostal knows you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to wear any vibrant colors.
Wave those nails in front of us.
The fuchsia color. You're not supposed to, you know, you would be considered a Jezebel if you were to wear something like this, you know, or you weren't supposed to not have, you know, pantyhose on. There's just all these restrictions. So growing up, like we were afraid to do anything. Like I didn't have my first drink till I was like 21. I'm like, I'm not going to the club and getting caught with a drink because I don't want to go to hell. And I'm just like, what? You know, what are you talking about? So fast forward, feeling this, you know, there's a song of free to love and free to dance. I'm free to live for him. I'm free. And I'm like, I never felt free being a Christian. I never felt that. But I'm like, from these little things of painting my fingernails this color and being able to just express myself is so liberating because I'm not
all
in a mindset. It's all of me, you know? And I'm like, this looks good on my skin tone. I mean, it was so much more to the point where I wouldn't wear certain colors because I was convinced it didn't look good on my skin tone because that was this, you're going to get in trouble for wearing this bright color. It had nothing to do with my skin tone. And so I'm just like, every day I wake up and I'm like, okay, what's going to happen today? I'm so excited and knowing that it's coming from me. It's not coming from anything outside of me, a person, a place, a thing. I'm excited about Zuri coming to the forefront because it's like, I'm here. And it's because I embraced everything that I went through up until this point.
Yes.
You know, I used to crave my mother telling me that she was proud of me, you know, because it was just like, she left and I was like, I just wanted to hear it so bad. And I had gone through a good portion of my adulthood wanting to hear that, so much so that I was missing out on little things to be proud of myself about.
Yeah,
and then I realized
looking for the validation.
Yeah.
Some validation from somebody.
Absolutely. And it's just like, girl, I'm proud of you. Like, look at all this stuff that you've accomplished. So it's just like, now that validation came from within, there's nothing that I look for from outside of anything outside of myself. Literally get up with the affirmation that you talked about, you know, I am unlimited. There are no boundaries or separations from myself. I create my own reality. That was the starting point for me to begin this transition. And now it's amazing. It's really an amazing place to be. You're grateful for everything, you know?
Wow. Yeah. No, I know. I feel you. And it's just and it's like, once you get outside of that box, that Christian box, the freedom that you feel, it's like you can't even, you couldn't have imagined what you're feeling now when you were in that box. It's incomparable.
It is. It really is. I want to tell you something else when you're talking about now that people may be able to kind of resonate with, because I know we're talking about a lot of spiritual things, and I want to bring to the forefront, you know, when you're in tune and when you're aligned, things unfold that are just unexplainable. So when my son passed, I always said I wanted to go to Africa. I ended up going to Africa and Europe, and then 4 more states. So I just was traveling. All of this was in my chart, and I didn't see how it was going to happen. But I'd gotten to a place to know that I'm always going to be okay. So I was able to stop thinking about bills and how is this going to play out?
Yes.
Where's this money going to come from? And I literally was just like, I'm fine.
Yes.
And I'm going. And I picked up in April and I left. And I always wanted to go to Africa. And it's like, here's all this unfolding, being at the water and imagining being here. And it's like, I'm finally here. Literally, like, this has happened, to coming back to the United States, going to all these different states, and just, you know, you would have thought I was a kid in a candy store, just cheesing and not worrying about anything. There was this instance where someone had offered me this position, and I'm looking at my account and I'm like, do I want to take this position? I don't know. I did it for 3 days and I didn't like it. It was like my skin was crawling, and I'm looking at my account and I'm like, it's good, but I need to keep it there. And so I was so torn about whether I should stay in this job. And so I'm going back and forth and I'm like, God, what do I need to do? And I'm like, why am I feeling like this? I know better because I just did all this stuff, but it's like following my intuition beyond logic. So I'm
Yes.
sitting there and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I get
It's
up the
like that
next day.
fork in the road.
Yes. And it's like when you have these experiences, you continue to know what to do the next time and the next time.
Yes.
So I'm
Yes.
sitting
And
here and
build
I'm
on
like,
each other.
yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I have this meeting. And I was like, I told her I needed to talk to her, but I was like, what do you do? And my son, my youngest son, he's absorbing all of this. And I'm so excited about his journey because he's only 17 and he's seeing and he's acknowledging all of these things. So anyway, we're sitting there, he's doing his work and he turns and he looks at me and he says, Mom, he said, my son's name that has passed. And he said, he told me to tell you to stop working. And I said, what?
Wow.
And he said, he told me to tell you to stop working. And I was like, well, why did he tell me? He said, I don't know. I told him to tell you. But then I looked at the clock and it said 11:11. So I was like, oh, I'm supposed to tell her. And I'm looking at him and I was like, okay. So I go in the back room or I close
Wow.
the door and I said, hey, why didn't you tell me? Are you sure? And I hear him say, yes, Mom. He didn't call me mama or anything. He said, yes, Mom. I said, are you sure? He said, yes, Mom. I said, well, why didn't you tell me? He said, because you could not hear me. My vibration did not match his. So he couldn't get me.
Wow.
So he used his brother in order to tell me. Once I heard that, I went to that meeting and I was like, yeah, this ain't for me. It's fine. And blah, blah, blah. So the next day, I get a call from this lady. And she tells me where she works. I'm going to save it to the end. She tells me where she works. And I said, okay, so I can't talk to you right now. I'm going to California. And she said, oh, okay. Yeah, me too. I can't talk to you till Tuesday. We were going to the same place. So I said, okay. She calls me on Tuesday and she says, hi, my name is such and such, and I'm the maker of this board game. And I said, what did you say? And she told me the board game. That was the company that she worked for. That was my son's favorite board game. So he told me to stop working because the very next day, I didn't apply to this job. She reaches out to me and it just so happens to be the company of his favorite game. So he was telling me all along, like, you're going to be fine. In this process.
Wow. I'm getting chills.
Yeah. In this process of no longer working for the company that I was for, they told me I could come back, but they ended up cutting the position because I didn't have enough bereavement saved up. And so they're like, well, we think they made the decision for me. And so I said, okay, well, I'm not going to worry about that. What was so funny was in this position, it is not only, beefed up my account, but I didn't get an extra certification. I didn't get anything under my belt. I had the same thing that I had before my son passed, and I ended up making $40,000 more in this position than when I made when my son passed. All by synchronicity. And I was just like, huh. And
just following that intuition and just
following that intuition beyond logic.
And that took courage to do.
It did. And I would have never done it before. I would have been too afraid. Like even driving to California from where I'm at, I'm like, oh, I hate driving. I hate road trips, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, get that. Every day is new. Like you got to stop thinking about that. That was the most fun that I've experienced in such a long time. And I'm talking to him and I'm singing and just really enjoying the experience. And it just comes around full circle for me to even be able to stop and observe what just happened. So it's like the next time when there's a situation where you're unsure because of what's in front of you, it's logical to do this, but you got to follow your intuition because your inner being's telling you, this ain't what you want to do, but you're going to be all right. So now it's like, okay, what's going to happen now? The contrast comes and it's just like, I want it to come because I want to see how this is going to happen on the other side.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. And all this happened, this transition, from my son ascending.
So. No, and that you're talking about, following your intuition, it was the same thing for me, Zuri, when I started my class and everything. It was like I had a decision to make because I knew at the time I was school teaching and I did not want to go back in the classroom.
Yeah.
And I remember asking my guides, I said, you know what? I said, I need y'all to give me a definite sign. I said, this is what I need to hear. If I'm supposed to quit, if I'm supposed to leave school teaching, this is what I need to hear. Now when I'm talking to my guys, we having a conversation.
Yeah.
So I said, these are the words I need to hear. Somewhere, somehow, I said, I need to hear you quit your job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether I'm passing by somebody or if I hear it on the radio, I don't care. I just need to hear those words. And when I hear those words, I know it's you guys telling me what I need to do and that I need to quit my job. So this was early in the morning. And then this is 8 in the morning. I'm doing my walk. And then 8 o'clock at night, I'm watching TV. And then these two ladies are sitting, I'm watching a movie. And these two ladies are sitting at a restaurant. And then one lady says, looks over to across the table to the other lady, says, you know, you quit your job? I was like, oh, no, that can't be happening.
Yeah.
But the thing is at that moment, either I was going to make a liar out of myself or I was going to quit my job and do what I was supposed to do.
That's right.
And Zuri, I took that fork in the road less traveled. I quit my job.
Yep.
I was going to be homeless in a month if I didn't make any money.
Yeah. Yep.
I have not looked back.
You haven't looked back. Haven't looked back.
It was the best thing I could have ever did.
Yeah.
This year, I've been able to travel. I've been able to go places and do things I had never been able to do while I was teaching.
Yep. And that's exactly how it happens. And then it's like, you're excited for the next time and the next time. And,
yes.
And the thing is, when your guides talk to you and they tell you what to do, they're not going to tell you what they told someone else to do because they're meeting you and your journey, like where you're at. So even with my situation, I'm like, okay, I'm making $40,000 more. My needs are met, but then I'm able to pour into what it is that I want to do effortlessly so that I can just do it full time, you know? And it's like, that's a desire of mine. And then, I mean, I go to a phone store, just different places, the grocery store, and I'm just drawing in people. They're like, I'm so attracted to your energy. And I was like, well, let me tell you why, you know? And so it just continues to unfold that way. But you stop and think like, okay, well, it's about timing. If I had have done this and turned this way or went and did what I was going to do, then I wouldn't have run into this person where this connected and this connected. And that's exactly like the person that's creating my website. And that position that I left is actually her cousin. And it was like, that was all I was supposed to be there for. Like, that was where I made the
3 days.
3 days.
Wow.
3 days.
Wow.
And he's so excited about this website. I'm going to buy a shirt and and it's just, I just can't say enough good stuff about it.
No, and it's almost, well, I won't say almost, it is. It's magical.
It is.
You know, once you really just start following that guidance, but you have to get into a place where you understand that the universe is a safe place.
Yes.
That you understand that everything that happens and works in your favor.
Yeah.
And you cannot get there from the Christian perspective of God might punish you.
Right.
If you do something. If something is not going right, is God punishing me? What's going on? You're having all these negative feelings that basically move you away from the direction that you need to go.
Absolutely. You know? And to that point, you're not living. You're not living. I was afraid to live because I was always afraid of, like, one of my friends, he would always say, like, why are you always talking about getting in trouble? You're grown. But I don't want to get in trouble, or I don't want to die, or like, I don't want to go to hell. And it's like, all this has allowed me to actually live, not just exist, but live, because I realized death is not the end. Like we were taught. It's actually like the beginning, you know?
Yes.
So yeah, it's amazing.
Powerful. Man. Well, we're already coming up on an hour here, Zuri, and I don't know if y'all had a couple of questions, we can. You're okay with time, Zuri?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. If anybody want to take a couple of questions, ask a couple of questions to her, please go ahead. And so we'll hang out another, I guess, 15 minutes or so.
Okay, sounds good.
And thank you guys that gave. So Robert and Dulce Maria, and I know Ruben, and there was another one too. And I missed that up there, but your story was so good I couldn't stop it. Yeah, Zuri. So it was going so good.
Yeah.
So yeah. So thank you guys so much. So see, Dark Goddess says Darren has a question. Let's see. I thought you were about to answer my question, which was, how do I follow my intuition? And I was asking for assistance. So how do you follow your intuition?
So basically what that means is to, again, you have to be in alignment with yourself, with your inner God or inner goddess or guidance system, however you want to look at that. Um, the best thing to do in order to figure out what that is, and I was going to touch on this a little bit before, is you got to get quiet. A few weeks ago, I guess social media went down. I didn't know that it went down because I wasn't on it like that. But I was just like, how many people took that opportunity to be quiet and just be in that silence? Because that's when you can hear your intuition through all of those things that I talked about in my life, whether it was, loss of a relationship or anything like that. Every time I got quiet was when I could hear. And I knew that it wasn't like just my thoughts. I knew it was, I was being guided because it was something that I wouldn't have thought to do myself. When I moved here 9 years ago, I picked up and moved to a city where I didn't know anyone. And I was like, I would never do that. It was my intuition that was like, you need to go do this. And I'm like, give me a sign. So to your point, you're always going to get that confirmation. If you're unsure, is this my intuition talking to me? Is this my guidance system talking to me? Ask source, ask your guidance system for confirmation that this is
Yes.
exactly what it is. And
Ask
I
for a sign.
promise you, it always comes. Sometimes, I guess when I first started, it was 2 or 3 days it would take to come. Now it comes within minutes, you know, just practice that. And that's how you'll
Yeah.
know you're on that right path. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times, and what I can say to that is that when intuition happens, it's almost, have you ever been like in school? And I know a lot of us have this, like we might be in a class where the teacher might tell us something and we understand it, but we can't explain it,
Yeah.
you know? And this is how intuition works a lot of times, is where you can literally, you feel the answer, you feel something there, you know it's there, but it might take you like 5, 10, 20 minutes to explain the feeling that you got,
Right.
and
Right.
it's just, and it's you'll as you practice and keep open to it, you'll feel that more and more. But I know it's my intuition, it's my guides that are talking to me when I get what I call that download, and it bypasses the senses. You don't
Yeah.
always hear it. You just, a lot of times you feel it. Some people do hear it. Some people,
I
um,
yeah, I felt it. I felt it before, but as I
yeah,
continued on this walk, then I could hear it. And I wanted to say it's that thing that we always say, something told me. That something is your intuition telling you go left, don't go right. And a lot of times we ignore it. And then we're like,
yep,
why didn't I listen? That is exactly what your intuition is.
yes, yes. And the hardest thing to do is to learn to trust it.
Absolutely. That
and
leap.
and and it's a process that you build up to. It's
Yeah.
not like when you left your job, you decided to take that other fork in the road. That wasn't something that necessarily just happened overnight. that
Yeah.
was that was a trust factor that you built up.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and the same for me. When it was something that just built up, that I knew at that point, I was still kind of nervous, but I knew I could trust what my
Hmm.
guys were saying. You quit your job,
Hmm.
and believe me, there was days I was like, oh man, did I do? But at some point, I just had to let go. And as we used to say as we were Christian, let go and
Let
let
go and
God.
let God.
Yeah,
It becomes easier. It becomes easier, Darren, as you do that, because if you listen and then you see what happened, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna listen again, and I'm gonna listen. You continue, like you said, to build that up, but you got to take that first leap. It's
yep,
scary, but
it's
once you do
scary.
it, the best is yet to come.
Yep, absolutely. And you have to know, and you have to keep thinking and knowing that it's all going to work in your
In your
favor no matter
favor.
what happens.
Yes.
So it might be something that you might characterize as negative in the moment,
Yep.
but that negative thing might be the impetus to push you to where you need to go, you know?
Exactly.
So you
Yep.
can't focus on the negative. You acknowledge it, but then you're like, hey, okay, well, what's next? What do I have to do now? Where's the positive thing that I can find from that negative thing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just a constant process. So yeah. Let's see. God says, Queen, do you know the impact you just had on us? Like, woohoo. So everybody, I'm looking at the comments and stuff, Zuri, and people are like, wow. So let's see.
Absolutely.
All right, please tell people the voice of intuition sounds like to you. That is an audible knowing, mostly yes. So yeah, it's just a knowing, it's a feeling. So and you were saying the same thing, Zuri, that is just a knowing.
Like, well, so the knowing is before, and like I said, it's like stages. Like they say, there's stages to this shit. It's a stage. You feel it at first, but then, like I said, when I was in the shower, I call her my goddess. She's like, hey, this is what you need to do. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because think about it. Like if I'm in the shower in that moment, I'm upset that this person did something. I'm not thinking, oh, I need to conduct his service. That's coming to me. That download is coming to me. So that my goddess is telling me this is what you need to do. And then there's just clarity and then you run with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. It is I like what you just said there. It's like a moment of clarity.
Yeah.
It's a moment of clarity. And then at that moment, you have to trust what you're getting and then run with it.
Absolutely.
So absolutely. Man. So let's see. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I was looking, Zuri, to see if there was any more questions. Let's see. Universal and Voice said, "Yep, everything is happening for a reason, for your highest good." So absolutely, and I can say, and when I understand, I'm saying this about Christianity, but it's just more to contrast what we used to deal with. But you used to could not trust that, whatever that was coming to, you couldn't trust that something was going to be for your highest good. Because I hear Christians all the time talk about, well, God might take this away from you, or God might do this to you, blah. No, that's not the case. God, the all wants you to have everything that is possible. The only thing that stops you is you, your mentality, your thinking. When you choose the opposite of what you desire, when you choose to focus on that opposite, you stop yourself. Yeah. That's all this.
A good way to put that too is, for anybody that's just struggling with that thought process, we talk about being children of God. And if anyone has their own child, or even if it's a dog, you're going to want the best for them. You're not going to punish them and all this stuff. And I'm like, I remember, all three of my boys cutting up and acting crazy, and they needed a butt whooping. But sometimes I'm like, they just being kids. It's like God, a good God, has that same relationship with you. So why would he want to punish me and all these different things? It's something that you're being told to control you in an aspect,
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then the feeling of knowing, like I said, I was 16 in the church, and I just knew, I'm like, something's not right. I didn't hear anything at that time, but at that age, I'm just like, as soon as I'm grown, I'm gonna do something else, because it doesn't feel right. And there is that fear, but there's still that knowing, like there's something else out there, and I got to figure out what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And Courtney, the SLP, says in Christianity, they teach you to lean not on your own understanding. I had somebody, a Christian, say that to me. Man, I was like, oh my God, my eyes just about rolled in the back of my head, man. But that's the way it is. And Ruben says, thank you, Laura, for your strength, intelligence, perseverance, because you are a shining light for everybody. Peace, love, and life.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Definitely. Yeah. So definitely. So thank you. All right. It says, you follow, Romy Wilford said, you followed your inward guide. Yeah. I just want to learn everything I need to know. Licia Jones says that. And Licia, it's always a progression. So you're not going to learn everything, because there's so much in the universe that we don't know. There's so much that we don't experience in the physical. There's things that we're never going to probably experience in the physical, but it's going to be there for you to learn at some point. So, but just enjoy the journey. Yeah, that's the best thing I could say. And Love JJ said, Lisa Jones, enjoy the journey. Just saying that. So yeah. All right. Okay. Well, I guess it's coming up on time. Zuri, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. And Voice, if y'all will, can y'all put her email address again in the chat? Yeah. And then we're gonna work on a Cash App for you.
Okay.
So we can get that going. Okay. But if y'all would put that up there, I see. Did I have that up there? But it is contact us at Kemetic. Well, tell us what it is again, Zuri.
It's contact us at KemeticEnergy.net. Contact us at
KemeticEnergy.net. Yes. So that's how y'all can get in contact with Zuri. So and you're helping people. Tell us again what you're doing. So how are you helping people?
So I'm helping people with the knowledge of the universe. And basically what that means is my experience and the connection that I have with the universe from going through all of the different life experiences. So I'm using that knowledge to help individuals uncover their own shadow so that they can, learn, understand, and heal and turn their pain into their power.
Awesome. Awesome. Beautiful. Beautifully said. Well, thank you, Zuri. And Zuri Akua Lauren Nichols. So I had two Zuris in my class. And I'm like, one time y'all started, both of y'all were like emailing me. And I thought I was talking to the same person.
Oh.
Like, oh, this is Zuri. Oh, that's Zuri. Wait a minute. That's not the same Zuri. It took me a while to figure it out. But,
yeah.
But hey, I love both of y'all, though. So y'all both good ladies. So I really appreciate y'all. But Zuri says, thanks for your courage and sharing your story with us. Much love to you.
Thank you.
So much love to you, Zuri. All right. And Judy Smith Randall says, Zuri, many thanks. Love to life, family. So this is all our KCL family here this
time. Hey,
so,
y'all.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you. But again, guys, thank you for being here tonight. So everybody that gave, thank you again. The beautiful KCL family as always comes through. So next week, I am going to be on a cruise, so there will not be a live next week. But the week after that, we're going to have Voice Shay up. So she's going to be doing her stuff. So which is probably good because she's in Voice Shay. When are you coming back from Mexico? So when is she? I was going to see when she's coming back. What's your end date of Mexico? She might not come back, y'all.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
She might not come back. So, Voice, I was trying to say, when are you coming back from Mexico? She might have just left. She didn't hear me. Oh well. Anyway, all right, guys. Well, y'all have a wonderful night, guys, and we'll see y'all the week after next. And thank you again, Zuri.
Thank you. All right.
All right. Y'all have a great